Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Habit on Muscle. I'm here with Jeremy Bell, my coach, and we're going to talk about why coaches need coaches and the importance of coaching. So, how's it going, Jeremy?
Good, man. Yeah, can't complain.
So, why don't you tell us who you are? Introduce yourself here.
So, Jeremy Bell. I've been a strength coach and personal trainer for the past 10 years. Started out in Edmonton, then moved over to Kelowna, where we currently are. I'm also the owner of Atlas Strength Gym here in Kelowna. And yeah, just a meathead that loves training, loves exercise science, and loves helping people get the most out of their training.
And our eyes locked and we can't hit off. And
yeah, the rest is history, right?
Yeah. So, as I said, you're my coach, and I am a coach myself, and you mentored me. And I thought it'd be great to chat with you about why coaches need coaches and the importance of coaching. So everybody can download a program online, go to bodybuilding.com or any of that. Why, in your words, would they want to get a coach?
Yeah, so obviously, I think there's two different avenues as to why that's such a important thing to understand. Is that, first off, if you download a program or you create your own program, just through self-education, watching on YouTube, you just don't have the proper lens to be able to view these exercises and have the right criteria to decide, is this right for me? Are these the optimal exercises to achieve my goal in the most timely and injury-free manner? And I guess that kind of segues into the individualization part of proper program design. Is each program should be catered to the individual, right? Not just something cookie cutter that's applied to the individual, right? We all have such unique circumstances in regards to schedule, different goal sets that we have, previous injury or current injury history that we're trying to manage. So, having a coach that's experienced in all those facets of designing a proper program is obviously going to help you expedite your goals. And then the other thing too is, and I think this is something that's really, really important to understand, is that a lot of the traditional program splits and a lot of the ways that these have been set up traditionally over time comes from a bodybuilding background. And we do know that within some of the bodybuilding, communities, there's some extracurricular supplement use, let's call it. And so these programs are designed in such a way that they're just too much volume, too much work for the general average person to be able to survive from.
Yeah, anybody pulls down like the Arnold's Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding. It's so much volume.
Right? And it's just our lifestyles nowadays just really aren't conducive to be able to handle those amounts of stress and reap great and quick, let's say, benefits from training. So I think those things have to be considered when you're thinking about, why it's important.
Yeah, and on that note, there's so many things we can take out of that, but it's interesting we talk about the volume. And people like Dorian Yates shook things up because he got huge. And how many days would you train? 4 days a week?
4 days a week, 45 minutes.
Yeah, that's mind-boggling when you compare to the 70s. They were working out 4 to 6 hours a day, at least 5 days a week kind of level.
Yeah.
It's but for them it almost seemed like that was instead of cardio almost. Must have been. But obviously shows Dorian showed that you can get a lot done with a small amount of volume and more room for recovery. But then everybody's different for that recovery. And finding that out is another part of that specialization for...
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why you have a coach, right? Is that, over time, we're going to have to try different, we've had higher volume programs, we've had lower volume, higher intensity programs, and it's a constant conversation between you and I to determine, what did it feel like? Were you able to recover? Was the session quality high, for the duration of your program block? These are all data points that we can use to be able to make informed decisions on what's going to be best for you as a unique individual. I think in general, and I think you've seen this as well, is that, I think if we're generalizing what most people can handle, it's less than they think. And I think the reason why people like to train so much, and I know this, is that people just like going to the gym. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's great, right? But do you like just going to the gym or do you like progress? And that's the thing that you have to answer for yourself. And neither's wrong, but you got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. Totally. On that note too, I think, we all want results fast. We want change to happen fast. We want fat loss fast. We want muscle gain fast. So I think that's another piece people want to dive into the deep end.
Yeah, for sure.
Not even aware really of the knowledge, the reasons for it, but they want to go all in and let's happen. I see that in so many transformation programs, 75 days of working out an hour a day every day, but
it's just not sustainable.
No.
And
where's it going?
Yeah, exactly. And it's there should be no end point to your fitness goals, right? They're continual.
Yeah.
It's a cliche thing to say, but it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? You can have sprint periods during your training cycles and training life, but in general, the habits that we want to instill in people are to understand that it's going to take time, consistency, and really that's what's going to create the long-lasting change you're after, right? So
yeah. And one thing you touched on earlier there was about like risks and injuries and prior history of injuries.
Yep.
Everybody's different, and one saying that you hear from newbies to the gym is no pain, no gain. And they don't know how to assess what is the right kind of pain.
Yep.
The kind of gains they want.
Yeah, and I think too, obviously, when you first start training, you can handle a lot. You're not that strong. You can train a lot and recover, very adequately. And, over time, what I don't want is I want to hopefully intervene in people's lifting career early enough that they don't get tied to that habit of overtraining and overdoing it and actually under trying, because that's what happens is the more you do, it's just human nature. You don't tend to put the same kind of focus, effort, and energy into what you're doing. You're just trying to now become basically a survivalist of your training program. You're just trying to make it through rather than getting the most out of what you do. So the earlier we can intervene with clients and teach them and have, give them some perspective as to why maybe doing a little less but doing it better and harder is going to be the appropriate way to design a training program, we can really help them out. And another thing too is we talk about this in weight loss, is that you want to basically see what's the minimum amount of stuff can I do to achieve some progress, right? Once that stalls, we need to add something to continue to push more stress and get some adaptation from the training. So if we start out training 7 days a week, well, once we stall, where do we go from there? Well, you're gonna start doing 2-a-days?
Same with fat loss and stuff.
Right?
Where do you go from there? If
you start with 1,500 calories too, right? And you're a 200-pound dude. Well, yeah, you'll lose some weight up front, but then what? So that's something that we want to ensure is that quality over quantity, and then over time, if we need more quantity, then we can add that, but making sure that quality stays high.
And I myself find that hard to sometimes see in myself.
Yep.
Having external eyes looking at me, and it's like, you don't need to do all that yet. And that's actually probably a good takeaway just for life, is do what minimally you need to do, and then only add more if you need, because you get more time in life.
More isn't always more, right? It's just not. It's not always gonna, and that applies to a lot of things, and especially in the training bodybuilding world, that is a very, very real premise, that more isn't always more, and we're built to think that way. Right?
Especially for legging body parts. Like, you don't know if you're doing too much volume or too little, and having another person kind of assess what you've done in previous workouts in the history. And
that's something that we've done a good job at, I think, is that we've had a good understanding that, okay, well, let's say my quads are a lagging body part. We know that if we're going to train that body part multiple times a week, that's going to take a lot of recovery resources. So we're not going to be able to train that 2-3 times a week while also training all the other body parts 2 to 3 times a week, because there is finite resources available to recover from training. So again, having a coach that can objectively look at that and structure the program properly in accordance with those goals, I mean, you can feel confident that what you're doing is actually going to move you towards the goal, right? Rather than you just kind of randomly hoping for the best, which is what a lot of people are doing, is they're just hoping for the best, and the results are very mixed. So
some people have gifted genetics. They look at weights and they'll grow.
Absolutely.
But I wish I was one of those people, but I'm not.
and it's good that you're not, because typically, if you're a coach, those are usually the worst coaches, because I actually just made a post kind of along those lines where these genetic freak athletes and people, they don't have a good understanding for us normals, right?
It'd be like if your parents were billionaires, and then the kid starts to talk about how to be successful with money, going from zero to hero. It's like, well, you started.
Man, two different situations completely. So and that's why I always say the best coaches are people that were average and then had to really work and be smart with their work to become great. Those are the people you want to listen to. Because they just couldn't do random shit.
They had to experiment, they had to struggle. They had to do all
I've
this
made
learning.
so many mistakes throughout my training career myself, and then with people, that now I understand, what is the best formula for the most part. And I'm still learning. I'm always learning all the time and trying to become better and just kind of having a more refined practice as a trainer, right? But it's taken a lot of errors to get there, and so that's basically why you hire a coach, is because what we don't want as the client is to have all those errors on the path to our goal, right? Like my job is to expedite your process, right? And that's why you're paying me essentially, right? Is to help you expedite the process.
It makes you more efficient with your time and training. Like the volume thing, I was just thinking about, like you're just saying there, if you don't know, you're kind of like throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying to figure out what works, and you're doing so much volume. And that volume that you're mentioning, I was just thinking about, like, if you had 10 sets of this one exercise, you're thinking, I have to make it all the way to 10.
Yeah.
You're not, so you're like, each set, you're like, you know, just
you're
going
just
through
like
it.
Ticking off, okay, I did one set. Okay, now I'm going to do the next one.
But if you did a bunch of warm-ups and you had to say 1 set or 2 sets, you're like, this is my only 2 sets.
Yeah, I better get everything out of this. Yeah. And that's the Dorian Yates, program. And that's something that I've been talking about more and more. I don't ever like to speak in absolute terms, but that is one theme within training that I can definitely say is one of the big difference makers. Is if you can learn, and it's something you have to learn over time, if you can get those habits instilled of training very, very hard and getting everything out of less overall work, you're going to see more progress, especially if your sleep and your food and all those other things are on point. You're just going to do so much better. But it is a learned skill. Yeah. And that's another way that a personal trainer or a coach can be highly valuable, is you're going to need to be pushed outside your comfort zone to understand what it's like to train actually hard. And I firmly believe, and people do try really hard in the gym and have good overall work ethic, but I don't think most people have pushed themselves past the point that they think they're capable of. Yeah. And that's truly what you need. And the coolest thing is you can do less but get more if you learn how to train that way, right? And in a lot of cases, people might think, well, is that more dangerous because like you're pushing harder and really, really going to the edge on certain exercises? Yes and no. But that's where, again, having a coach that's experienced comes...
What are the right exercises? What are the smart ones to do to get to my goals?
Like deadlift, is that a good idea? To do like drop sets and do rest pause sets and stuff? Probably not. Yeah. The room for error is way less. But a leg press,
risk-benefit ratio isn't there.
Yeah, it's skewed, right, to risk, right? But, doing that on a leg press, absolutely, right? Like, you're not going to hurt yourself, So, again, that's another reason why you'd have a coach, right? They probably did dumb stuff before. They like me, I probably did rest pause and drop sets on a deadlift and realized, okay, this is not sustainable, right? I need to do this.
I'm recovering for a week.
Exactly. Like, that's just stupid, right? But so with a good coach, hopefully, they've worked through all that and they can ensure that you're not going to do dumb stuff and hurt yourself or, slow your progress.
And the constantly learning principle you brought up, maybe it's a good segue to why a coach would want to coach. Like, I'm always learning from you, and I have certain things that I like to do with clients, but then having you to bounce ideas off of, and how you program me also is like, oh, I didn't think about doing that. And that's, for me, definitely a big learning thing. And actually having the support to like, hey, I'm not sure about this, and they have another more knowledge resources available to you as a coach, if you have another coach as a friend and a mentor.
Yeah, no, I think that's so valuable. And I think what you mentioned there is such a good point, is that, hopefully you as a coach, you have your own fitness goals as well. And I think that's really important to not lose sight of that, is to have that and then have a coach that's going to help you with your own fitness pursuits. And like you said, what's more valuable than being able to have a program that you have from your trusted coach and then being able to dissect that and ask questions for yourself, but also for your own learning for your clients? There's no better form of learning than by doing, right? Yeah. And then, absolutely. I think that's super valuable, obviously. And then it's just the objective opinion, right? And even myself, where this shone for me is when I was a competitive powerlifter, one of my best friends was a much more accomplished powerlifter than me. And even though technically, and especially then, I thought I knew basically everything you'd need to know as a powerlifter to be highly successful. And although I had lots of knowledge, I didn't have very much experience as a powerlifter. And as well, my ego was an enemy of me. So I needed him to check me because I would make stupid decisions because I was just into my training, fired up and very competitive. And he was able to check me and be like, whoa, no, that's dumb. Don't do that. Right. And so without him and his ability to check me and help me organize my programming and be that objective viewer, I wouldn't have been near as successful, you know? And so that's obviously super, super important.
The ego there, imagine your successes would like go against you because you assume this is working because of your current successes. Was there like a learn the hard way situation that you started listening to him, or what was the turning point there?
It would be like, well, I was getting really strong really quickly, let's say. And so I felt basically invincible. I felt like basically everything I was doing was working and training. So my thought was like, fuck it, push the gas. Because I was, at that time, I was doing well, but he was able to kind of check me and be like, look, man, like right now, everything is just rolling, but if you keep at this pace, this isn't going to be sustainable. And as you get stronger and stronger and stronger, the stress just compounds more and more and more. So you got to be even smarter the stronger you get as a lifter. And that applies to bodybuilding and powerlifting. So, you know, he was able to say, look, man, I get that you're kind of riding a wave right now, but this isn't going to last forever. We need to be able to kind of pump the brakes and look at this more objectively and understand we're trying to get to here and not only think about tomorrow's squat session where you're just going to max out again because it's working. You know, and so that was important for me, you know, just to pull the reins a bit.
I can relate. Recently, I was trying to go for like a max deadlift, and as I got closer to my max strength, any little nuances that were slightly wrong with my lift or my shoes or anything became way more apparent.
Magnified.
I had no idea that like this was like a potential problem the way I was lifting. Until like I was going
until
to
you got there. You can't know until you know, really.
Yeah,
for sure.